Welcome to Lil Life Facts.
You know, we tend to have this very kindergarten view of our lungs. You just picture two pink balloons in your chest. They inflate, they deflate, and that's kind of the end of the story.
Right.
But after going through the research on these shocking lung facts, I mean, balloon just doesn't cut it anymore.
No, not at all.
It's more like finding out your air conditioner is also a manufacturing plant.
That's actually a perfect analogy. We treat them like simple airbags, but the biology, it suggests they are this sophisticated, multi-purpose machinery.
So not just passive.
Not at all. They're active participants in our immunity and, what's so surprising, in our blood supply.
That 2017 study was the real turning point for me. I always thought, bone marrow had a complete monopoly on blood production.
And that was the common wisdom.
But the lungs are churning out over 10 million platelets an hour?
Per hour. It's a massive discovery. Platelets are the clotting cells that stop you from bleeding out, and it turns out the lungs are a primary factory for them.
Wow.
They even hold a backup supply of blood stem cells.
Which implies that if your bone marrow fails, the lungs could technically step in and reboot the whole system.
Exactly, and that changes the medical landscape. If the lungs are a blood factory, it means lung disease could be a hidden driver of blood disorders.
So we've been looking in the wrong place.
Or at least not looking in all the right places. We treat them as respiratory issues, but the so what here is that lung health is just inextricably linked to hematology.
The complexity is physical, too.
Yeah.
I knew that tennis court stat.
Yeah, everyone's heard that one.
That if you flattened out the lungs, they'd cover, 70 to 100 square meters? But I never really considered the density needed to pack that into a rib cage.
It's an engineering marvel. People hear tennis court and they think of a flat surface, but it's really a three-dimensional labyrinth of alveoli.
A sponge, not a bag.
Precisely, a sponge.
Yeah.
That massive surface area is the only way to get enough oxygen into your bloodstream instantly.
And that unique structure, it leads to some weird physics. The notes mentioned the lungs are the only organ that can float.
They are, yeah, thanks to something called residual volume.
Residual.
Right. So think of your lungs like a rigid plastic bottle, not a flimsy plastic bag. You can flatten a bag completely empty,
Okay.
but a bottle always holds its shape. No matter how hard you exhale, your rib cage stops the lungs from fully collapsing. There's always about a liter of air left inside.
And that's the air reserve that forensic pathologists look for, isn't it? The hydrostatic test.
It is. If a baby's lungs float during an autopsy, it means they took a breath. If they sink, well, they never access that residual volume.
It's a grim application, but it really proves just how distinct the lung structure is.
Completely different from every other solid organ.
Okay, so let's go back to that wet tennis court inside our chests. The problem with having 100 square meters of wet tissue exposed to air is evaporation.
That is exactly why you wake up thirsty. You are constantly exhaling water vapor.
How much are we talking?
We lose about 300 to 500 milliliters. That's roughly 1 or 2 cups of water every single day, just by breathing.
And you're also expelling, or rather, ejecting, a lot of unwanted guests. The sneeze statistics were just violent, 100 miles per hour.
And carrying a payload of 100,000 germ droplets, it's a high-velocity ejection system, but for the day-to-day cleaning, you're relying on cilia.
The tiny little hairs.
Those microscopic hairs lining the airways, yeah, they're constantly sweeping mucus out.
And this is where the smoking data gets really visceral. It's not just that smoke is bad, it physically paralyzes those hairs.
Precisely. When the broom stops sweeping, the trash just piles up. That's why a pack-a-day smoker accumulates roughly a cup of tar annually.
A cup of tar.
And the smoker's cough is just the body's desperate attempt to mechanically blast that gunk out because the elegant ciliary system is offline.
But, and this was a huge correction for me, even healthy, clean lungs aren't actually sterile.
Oh, that was the dogma for decades, that they were these germ-free zones.
Yeah.
But we now know the lungs have their own microbiome, a lot like the gut. It's a whole thriving ecosystem of bacteria.
And this isn't just contamination, right? These bacteria are actually doing a job.
They're essential. They help regulate immunity, prevent inflammation. If that ecosystem gets out of balance, you're more prone to things like asthma or infection. It's not a filter, it's a garden.
So, we have an organ that produces blood, floats in water, covers a tennis court, and hosts its own bacterial ecosystem.
It certainly makes the instruction, just breathe, feel like a much more complicated thing.
It really does. So here's a thought I'm left with. If the lungs are producing platelets and managing a microbiome, should we stop categorizing them as just respiratory organs and start seeing them as a primary player in our immune system?
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more fun facts. Click that red button to join us.